In this tutorial, we're going to set up a specialized rig for um, a foot. It could be any kind of walking character. It would work for the hind or foreleg of an animal, mostly the hind leg, really, or the leg and foot of a biped like a human. Um, so you can see I've made something here that looks sort of like a really bad rabbit leg, hind leg, slightly extended. I made it slightly extended just so you can see the joint systems set up a little better, and also so Maya understands what the forward bend is, and it may solve it a little better. So let's just look here, and I modeled this very quickly, and you'll see that when I actually rig it, it's not going to uh, deform very well, and I'm not going to spend much time on the editing the membership of the joints and things like that, because what I want to look at is the setup of the joints, not the skinning so much. So I am going to, I was practicing on this one, so I'm going to make sure I've got the skin detached. I'm going to unlock all this stuff. I'm going to delete its history, just make sure everything's kosher. Call it leg. Okay, so the first thing is just to create a simple joint setup. So I'm going to create the hip somewhere like that, the knee, the ankle, the ball of the foot, and then the end of the toe. Hit return. Now do this, don't try and do this in the perspective view because it won't work. You won't be in the right plane. Do it in the side view. And if you want to reposition any of these joints after, remember you just hit insert and then you can do that. Just like when you move the pivot point of any object. Now of course I want to name these things: hip, knee, ankle, ball, and toe. Okay, so now we want to skin this, so I'm going to select this one. I don't want to select the toe joint. It looks like it's selected, but it's actually not. It's just because its parent is selected. But I don't want to have this one selected because we don't want this little joint to have its rotation affect the geometry. We just want the rotation at the ball of the foot here to control the rotation of the toe. So I'm going to select that one, that one, that one. I'm shift selecting here, then shift select the leg itself, the geometry. Skin, I'll do a rigid bind. Make sure bind to selected joints is turned on. That's because we didn't select the very last joint, remember? And everything should work, but probably won't work that perfectly. Yeah, so you can see that it's not really deforming very well there, but I'm not going to lose any sleep over it right now. Everything is good enough for what I'm doing here. So you can see that right now it's set up. If I want to animate the leg, I have to rotate the hip, then the knee, and then the ankle to put it into position. So in this, and that would be animating through forward kinematics because you're animating down the chain of the hierarchy of the joints here. But we want to do an inverse kinematic setup, so you can select the ankle and pull it, and it will solve the rotation of the knee and the hip for you. So you can just animate the foot being placed down where you want it to be placed, and then the rest of the leg will follow. So to do this, we're going to go to Skeleton, IK Handle Tool, and open up the option box. And for this one, we want to use an IK RP solver. That's a rotate plane solver. This gives us some extra controls over how the knee rotates. So just use that one, and we want to click on the hip and then the ankle, and then you can see that there's a new controller created here, and I'm just going to open up the outliner. So I just open this up. We've got the hip, knee, ankle, ball, toe. We've got this effector, which is the thing you select to move the this is the end of the IK chain, and this is the IK handle. So you select the IK handle, and then you can move the leg around here. So you can see I'm moving at the ankle and it's pulling the rest of the leg with it. So you can see that I'm getting bad deformation up here. Just going to zero these things out. So if I wanted to fix that deformation, I could go in and edit the membership of this joint and add this point to it and then add a flexor, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. But that's the kind of stuff you have to do if you're using rigid binding. So we've got the foot doing half of what we want. Oh, I always want to make sure you're selecting the IK handle. Oops, I have that selection turned off. It's to move the foot. So, we can make the foot reach out and do the heel strike, but we can't. You have to remember that the foot is sometimes free swinging when you're in walk cycle, and sometimes it's stuck to the ground. So if we grab this hip joint, it's going to move everything around, which is fine. The other thing we want to do is create what's called a pole vector. So I'm going to create a locator and just place it sort of in front of the knee here. You can see if I select my IK handle, there's this thing that's trying to tell Maya which way is forward. This is the pole vector here. And so we're going to have this locator, which is sitting in front of our leg, constrain the direction that this pole vector points. So, because what can happen sometimes if you move the leg into an extreme extension, the leg may actually flip around because it doesn't know which way is forward when it's trying to solve the rotation of the knee. So we want to select the locator, then the IK handle, and go to constrain pole vector. And so now when I move this around, it tries to keep the locator in front, and it will keep the leg from flipping around when you go into hyperextension. So I'm going to name this IK handle ankle, because this is the one that's controlling the ankle. Yeah. And now we have to do this kind of funny setup. We have to put a couple more IK handles just between the ankle joint and the ball joint, and then the ball joint and the toe joint. They aren't going to do anything, but they're going to be controllers that reverse the direction of the IK handles. And I'll show you what I mean in a second. Or it reverses the direction of the joints. Because right now, the ball joint here is the child of the ankle. And if I want to move the ball, I've got to rotate the ankle. Right? But we want to set it up so we can control the rotation of the ankle from the ball. So if we go to skeleton, IK handle tool, and open it up again and go from RK solver to SC solver, and then just click from ankle to ball, and I'm going to name this IK handle. Oops, I just dropped my mouse. Come back here. Okay, and then we're going to hit Y to go into the same tool and go from the ball to the toe. We're going to name this IK handle toe. So that means I can select this one and move it up and down, and it's going to control the rotation at the ankle. So we're reversing the order here. So we're letting the ball control its parent. So that's what IK is doing. It's reversing the order of the hierarchy in these little local situations. So why are we doing that? Well, we need those things to set up what's called the reverse foot. So this is going to be what we use to control the entire foot, and it will allow it to stick to the ground. And it's called a reverse foot because we create a joint system that runs opposite the joint system that we have presently in the foot. So I'm going to go into skeleton, joint tool. I'm going to start right at the heel here and click, and then click right under the toe joint. Or I'm going to click right on the toe joint, I think, and then click right on the ball joint, and then right on the ankle joint. hit return. So we've got these two things sitting on top of each other, which can get a little bit confusing. So I am going to add this joint system I just made to a layer, and I'm going to give it a color so I can turn it on and off, and when it's not selected it'll be a different color than the other things. You can add a color by double clicking on the layer and choosing a color here. So let's name these things. So this is our foot controller, or our reverse foot controller, so I'll call it reverse foot heel, and I'll select the next one, call it reverse foot toe. Oops, and make sure you're selecting the right thing here. Reverse foot ball, and finally reverse foot ankle. It's important to name these things because it avoids problems when you go to parent things to other things. So I'm going to open up the outliner. So what we want to do is parent each of the reverse foot joints to its respective IK handle in the normal foot. So if I open up the reverse foot joint system I have here, and then I've got these, I'm just going to move this out of the way. I've got my different IK handles here that I hooked up. So IK handle ankle should be parented to RF ankle. IK handle ball should be parented to RF ball. IK handle toe should be parented to RF toe. Okay, so you'll wind up with something that looks like this. And so what does this allow us to do? Well, I'll tell you. It allows us to grab this controller here, this reverse foot at its root, and then we can move the whole foot from here. We can also rotate at the heel here, so when we do the heel strike. And then we can also use these controllers to move the foot up and down, or the toe. We can roll the foot on the ball, and we can roll it on the toe. But we're going to set up a special controller to do that. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to look in the top view here, and I'm going to create a NURBS circle. Scale it up, go into CV mode, and I'm just going to shape this like, this will just be a selection handle, just to make it easier for us to grab the foot controller, and we can put some extra attributes on this thing. So I'm sort of trying to shape it like a footprint, just because. Because why not? Spending too long on this already. Okay, something like that. So it's just a curve, and we're going to call it foot handle or something like that. And then we're just going to parent the RF heel to it. So that just means when I select this and I rotate it, or I move it, it moves the foot. Now I'm going to move its pivot point to the same place as the RF heel. So when I rotate that handle, it rotates it in the proper position. But now I'm going to create a couple of extra controllers in here. So I've got the foot handle selected. I'm going to open up the attribute editor and go into the transform node here. And I'm going to add a couple of, let me just put this here in the middle of the screen, a couple of extra attributes. No, I don't want to edit. I want to go to add attributes. So we're going to create a new attribute called ball roll, and then give it a minimum value of 0, maximum value of 1, and default 0. Even though this is in rotation, we're just setting simple parameters that are easy for us to animate. Say OK, create another one, add attributes. This one we'll call toe roll. Same stuff. You can leave all the other things at the default. So it's keyable, good. It's a float vector, or sorry, it's a float data type, which means it can be fractional amount. So it can be graded between 0 and 1. Say OK. So now we've got two new controllers, and we're going to use our handy old set-driven key to do this. So we want ball roll to control the, what do we want ball roll to control? Having a bad moment here. Right, sorry. On the reverse foot ball joint, we want to control this action so we can roll the foot on the ball. And then on the toe, RF toe, we want to control the movement like this. So let's do ball roll first. I'm going to do a set driven key, and this will be, I'm going to select the foot handle. That's the driver, because that's where those two new attributes are. So select ball roll. Then we have to select, what do we have to select? The reverse foot ball. Load that as the driven, and it's going to be rotate Z. So when ball roll, let me move these into a good spot so we can see what's going on here. So when ball roll is 0, we want rotate Z in the RF ball to be 0, so I'm going to key that. When ball roll is 1, we'll just set it to a good amount. Maybe that's the maximum we want to be able to roll the foot, so let's put a nice clean number, 40 degrees, and we'll key that. So now we've got a nice controller for yoink, 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 yoink. Now let's do the toe roll. Set driven key, load the driver, is select the foot handle is the driver, load driver, toe roll is the driving attribute. Want to select RF toe, load driven, and again it's rotate Z, and then 0, just key it like that, and then dial up toe roll, and then get another good amount, maybe something like 20 degrees, and key that. So now toe roll will do this. So you can see you get more control over the foot this way. Now one thing I'm just thinking of, it may have been better for me to put my reverse foot joints not right on top of the other joints, but at the base of my geometry where it touches the floor at the toe and the ball. So if things seem to slide a little bit, that may be something you want to do. So anyway, here we've got a nice reverse foot. We've got all the controls that we need. So we can grab the hip joint to put the foot out, and we can now use our foot handle to control how the foot goes down. It's a terrible skinning job I've done here, I apologize. And then if we wanted to, we can animate toe roll or ball roll and toe roll for when it's on the ground. Say if it's in the reversed position like this, I want to rotate the heel down. Now you could make a set driven key for heel rotate too. So when, say, you're in the back end of the walk cycle, oops. Now this is a mistake I always make. I always grab the joint instead of the controller. So what you may want to do is grab this joint and just lock it. So select all these joints and lock it, and then so you just grab this one and you do all your movements with it, so you don't run into the problem where you've done a bunch of animation and you've accidentally selected the wrong joint to it. So I'm going to put the foot way back here, rotate it down, and then I can roll the ball, so you can animate the rolling of the foot through the walk cycle, animate this, and then you would animate the foot moving after. So you get lots of control here. There are some other controls that you can set up for not rolling the toe and rolling the ball, but just animating them up and down. But that's a more advanced rig that you can add as many controllers as you want, really. But this is the basic of the reverse foot. So give it a try. It's really not that hard, but you just have to think about the hierarchy and how you're using IK handles to reverse the hierarchy, and just some clever parenting to make it work the way you want. Okay, good luck.